Hi, and welcome to my channel. Um, so we're going to be talking about the month ahead astrology. Um, I'm really focusing just on the eclipses this time round because that's the big, the big two at the moment. But I've already done the Venus retrograde and within it also Mercury retrograde. If you haven't already seen that, that video is already up. Um, so yeah, I might put a link to that in the description box or something. But yeah, so I didn't want to make it go too long since I already gave the Venus retrograde information and Mercury retrograde information in the other video. So I'm just gonna yeah, as I said, focus on these two eclipses this month, which we would have already been feeling last month or part thereof last month. Yeah, actually all of last month. Um, because they have, with the eclipses, they're very different. If you don't already know, they're very different to the regular new and full moon events, because they have a pre-shadow and a post-shadow, which means that the pre-shadow is the energy before the event and the post-shadow is the energy after the event. And that can be at least 3 months either side of the eclipses that we can feel those energies. Um, and I can attest to it again because uh, I had something go on with the previous eclipses, that I think I've mentioned it, but it wasn't directly related to me, but me and some other people experienced it, if that makes sense, through someone else going through an eclipse moment, if that makes sense. Um, I'm not sure if you can hear my bird in the background, but I'm just going to keep going. Um, yeah, anyway, and there was something that happened this eclipse too, which happened at near the end of February. So again, the energies were already up and running before the actual event, which is technically halfway through March. So yeah. Um, So basically, it's especially with the full moon eclipse. That's when I do the readings with the cards. I if the eclipse cards come out, especially the full moon eclipse, because that's the tough one, because that's about taking away anything that's holding you back. So if you're clinging on to something that you know is holding you back, something or someone, um, and you're not, not doing the work to work through that or let it go, and free yourself up in that sense, then the energies of the eclipse will come along and just rip it out from under you very unceremoniously. And that's kind of something that happened to me near the end of February. So I don't want to go into that too much and take too much time, because I want to just jump into the basics of what we can be looking into. But needless to say, with the full moon eclipse, that's generally the tough one if you haven't already done the work. With those who either have done the work or it's not something they need to do in their particular life experience, then they're not going to feel the eclipse energies coming through in that sense. Hopefully I'm making sense, but yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, even people who have the same rising sign or whatever, there can be some that will be affected and some that won't. It's all dependent on what's going on in your personal life at the time and whether that particular part of your chart needs work on it, or whether you're fine and don't need work with that part. Um, yeah, so yeah, again, I'll say that because I'm still trying to get past what happened in my situation. But yeah, anyway, so as I said, if we're not doing the work, or we're not taking notice of what we really need to look into or let go of or make changes with, sometimes it's about letting something completely go. Sometimes it's just letting go of a dynamic within a situation. And sometimes it's just making some tweaks and changes. It's all dependent again on how intense that situation is for you and what's if it's something that's really holding you back and stopping things up, for me, in hindsight, which is always 2020 vision, hindsight, I know now that it was something that was keeping me stuck and it needed to go, but it's not something I wanted to go, and I'm still not happy about it going. But and the way it happened was really, really bad. But anyway, so now let's get into. I always get there we go. Oh, so here we've got on the left here the tropical system. As you can see, there's two of them up. I think most of you, if you've already been following by now, you know what's going on here. And this is the Topocentric True Sidereal system. The difference is that this goes, well, this is pretty much whole signs for the main part in this one. But with tropical, they cut the sky up into neat 30-degree sections. Technically, it's easier to read that way, easier to follow, but it's not what is in the visible sky. It's not actually the size of each constellation. It's not the correct sizes like the Topocentric True Sidereal is. So this goes by seasons, and as everything is recorded, you know, we have the months usually, except for February and a couple of other months with 29 or 28 and 31. Generally, most go with the months with 30 days. Yeah, so I don't want to go into that too much, but this tropical one goes by the seasons. It doesn't actually go by the correct placements. Yeah, so this is why I'm showing the difference, so you can follow along with whichever system you find interesting or whatever, but just to show you the differences. This is why I do this as well, to show you the differences. So as it turns out, sometimes it does turn out that they have the same sign. As you can see, the moon's over here in Virgo, and it's also in Virgo here. Difference is it's 1 degree here and 23 degrees there. So yeah, sometimes it will be a different sign, which again, if you guys have seen other videos like this of mine, there are times when they're different signs. Generally, it's 1 sign away, but sometimes, depending on the size of the constellations, it can be 2 signs away with tropical, say, in Scorpio, where it's back in Virgo still, in True Sidereal, for instance, or something like that. It's just an example. So yes, so it turns out that they're both in Virgo, this eclipse, this full moon eclipse. And as you can see with the red lines, full moon, it's the opposite of, that's the opposition. That's how we get a full moon. It is an opposition. A new moon is a conjunction and a full moon is an opposition. So it's about balancing out those energies. So we've got the energies of Pisces and Virgo. So now we've also got, as you can see, there's a few lines here because it's still the same. The aspects are still the same. But yeah, the actual constellations, the signs will be different. But yeah, so here we've got also 2 more lines here which line up with Saturn and Neptune. So there's a need for balancing our emotional side with, you know, going with the flow, finding the balance of opposites. But there's the seriousness of Saturn as well, in that looking again at, are we going too much one way or too much another way, like with Virgo, with the health, duty, services to others, or service to others, and service, I like to include service to ourselves in terms of looking after ourselves in a healthy way so that we have that ability to be of service to others. It's also detail oriented and all that sort of thing. So being a full moon eclipse, we're looking at what adjustments perhaps that do we need to make? Is there some sort of, because here we've got Neptune in Pisces. So again, Tropical is saying Neptune's moving out of Pisces to Aries, but it's not. It won't be doing that till, well, I've got it in a post on well, actually they're not called the community tab anymore, are they? I think it's just the posts tab now. Posts. Anyway, I've got a picture, like a JPEG picture like this, showing when Neptune will be moving into Aries. But it's not going to be doing it this year, I can tell you that much. But anyway, so yeah, so with the full moon, we're talking about the negatives, perhaps, of being too going with the flow, too easygoing, or allowing ourselves to be how do I put it? It can be about addictions. I was going to say obsessions, but I'm getting that would be more the negative of Scorpio, though. But anyway, addictions, getting hoodwinked, that sort of thing. And the seriousness, like, is there some sort of, taking a serious look at those aspects to balance out duties, health. This also, Virgo, also includes our pets, and the need to be sure that we're not ignoring anything, or not sort of, how do I put it? It's not like we'd ignore our pets' needs and health and all that, but that we're taking that into account. It could even be because the moon is emotional, right? So it could be about our pets needing more of our time, the emotional connection. And that might be where the seriousness needs to come in as well. Or there's been the seriousness of that there hasn't been enough of a connection. It could be something like too much work life, too much duties, too much focusing on that the pets have, been left out or something like that. For instance, that's just an example. Health, your own health, your day-to-day routine, your daily life, your daily routine. Has anything been lax? Again, there's the polar opposites of, have you been doing too much of the Virgo side of things, or have you been a little too lax in that? And, Saturn's sort of trying to say here, take a serious look at whether you've been a little too letting things go with the flow a little too much and not taking action on certain things, or there's a serious need to be a little bit more easygoing. See how there's a pendulum swing to it. Now, also, I want to point out this guy here, because I think with the seriousness of Saturn, now this is Mars linking up with Chiron. So there's also the taking action to try and look into perhaps some of our healing needs, and or the needs of others that we are wanting to help out in some way. Service to others doesn't necessarily mean your job or your work. It could just literally be looking after your family, looking after their health, looking after your pets and their health, and that sort of thing. Yeah, so taking the initiative, Mars, to communicate in Gemini, communicate healing, bring in communication in some way, in an easy go, easy flow way, a peaceful way, because Pisces likes peacefulness. Yeah, could be something like that. Now they're the more tougher ones that I usually try to cover, because these are easygoing here. Like you've got sextiles here from Pluto to what is it? I think one's the North Node and Venus. So that's actually good. That's an opening that we have. You know, like because trines and sextiles are the easier aspects. Trines are a little more really easygoing kind of thing that we can get. They can be known for being a little bit lazy, like we can choose to, well, I mean, we can with the sextiles too. We can choose to take action with those things. Like this is Pluto sextiling Venus, which is retrograde. So again, even though she's retrograde, it's again looking into things and what might need to be purged, but it's not in a painful way because it's a sextile. And then we've got to the moon, there's a trine here to Uranus. So the idea of shaking things up. So that's a trine. So that's sort of like, again, easygoing. It's not something we have to like shake up violently and aggressively or anything like that, but it's an opening that we can do something to make change, to shake things up in, again, maybe a more peaceful way, because we've got so much of the Pisces energy. But yes, I know the eclipse is in Virgo, and Pisces is the descendant of Virgo, really. So again, it's still the polar opposites that we're working with, both of the energies. But yeah, so it's the main themes would be, oh, excuse me, I just bumped the mic. So yeah, the main themes to focus on are, like I said, like our daily routines, our health, health and fitness, physical health, emotional health, mental health. Again, in any case, I didn't do any disclaimer. I think I did with the Venus video though, but the disclaimer of anything like medical, financial, or what's the other one, legal, always seek professional advice that way where it's needed. But yeah, so the idea of your daily routines, what needs to be looked at there? Is there something that needs to be looked at? Are they needing to change? It's all Piscean energies coming through on the opposite side. So the moon's literally there on her own with a whole bunch of Pisces planets in Pisces, and Chiron in Pisces still as well. As you can see, the SR on this particular day, the 14th, right smack bang on the eclipse day, the actual event is when Mercury stations retrograde, which again, as I said before, we're already in his pre-shadow. So again, we're already feeling all these Piscean energies, and that's why I guess I'm kind of focusing on that as well. So there's the Mercury communication there, and also there's the communication sign that Mars is in. So it's taking action with communication as well to what's the word for it? Initiate some healing, perhaps. I think there might be some sort of opening for some healing for some of us. I know, you know, as I say this, I'm not immune to these energies, and to me, this is ringing true for me as well, that to work with these energies in this way and focus on the healing side of things as best I can. Obviously, we're not just going to click our fingers or click our heels 3 times or whatever it is with Wizard of Oz, and everything will be fine and we're all healed and yay, isn't that great? We're always going to have something that needs to be healed. That's why we've all got Chiron in our charts, you know. So I'm no more immune than any of the rest of you. But yeah, so So I think, is there anything else I need to? Jupiter is sextiling, I think that's Venus and maybe Mars, not Mars, Mercury. So it's again another sextile. So Jupiter is the expansiveness. And again, Taurus, the sign to, oh, that's really, I'm not good at drawing. Anyway, Taurus, again, the sign of self-worth and financial and values, what we value. So yeah, so again, self-worth, that ties in with Chiron, the opening to communicate some healing, taking the initiative. The square doesn't necessarily mean it's a difficult thing, but it will be a challenge. It's a challenge we can choose to open up to or not, but I think in my case, I'm going to give it a try anyway, because I'd prefer to do the work than, sit back and wait for these eclipse energies to hit me again. No, thank you. So yeah, so is there anything else? So, the expansiveness of communicating, with the Mars Mercury, because again, like I said, Mercury is sextiling Jupiter, and I think it's also um, sextiling Venus, because they're only 1 degree away from each other, 18 and 19 degrees. Yeah, so I think all in all, I think the seriousness of Saturn, because he's right at 2 degrees of Pisces, so he's in the early degrees, so he's taking a serious look at things. So there's the seriousness of it in some form. So how would I explain it? I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a really difficult thing, but it's sort of like take a wise, serious kind of look at what this might be for you, if anything seems to be sort of resonating in that sense, to sort of go, okay, don't dismiss it, because obviously dismissing an issue is not being serious about it. So taking the initiative to communicate and look into what might be an opening for healing and expansiveness with that, with Venus and Mercury communicating our relationships, to ourselves, our relationships to money maybe as well. Because again, when we look at career, for instance, we're looking at Virgo and Capricorn. So for some, it could be that, because it falls in different places for different people's charts. So it's just all dependent on that. But the main thing is the Virgo themes, and having that Pisces sort of backdrop, I guess, to it in a sense, because that's the opposites balancing. And, communication is coming into it with the idea of taking initiative. Mars in Gemini. Gemini has the ruling planet of Mercury, and so does Virgo. So there's the communication there as well. So communicating this in some way as well, communicating expansive communication with a hint of healing in some way, with something to do with healing, some sort of change needing to be made, something needing to be looked at in a somewhat serious way. It doesn't have to be like super serious. For some it might be, but the idea is to use the wisdom of Saturn to look into what might be the changes, what, level-headed, in terms of duties and service and health and pets and all that sort of thing, what sort of things are needed to be taken a concerted look at, a balanced, level-headed look at what might need to be improved, changed, it might be a dynamic again of something. So it might not need to be something that has to end, but for some it might. I feel like I'm going back forward in a way, but really I hope I'm making some form of sense with this. But yeah, it's because it's kind of like a pendulum swing of the balance of the opposites kind of thing as well. So yeah, with all this retrograde energy of Venus and Mercury, but Mars is direct now, as you can see. So at least that's some what do you call it? Not compensation. What's the word for it? I can't think of it. But it sort of eases things off a bit by, in a sense, that Mars is again direct, and he's in Gemini instead of Cancer because he wasn't happy in Cancer. But he's going to be moving into Cancer now that he's direct anyway. So that'll happen in a little while, but we're not talking about that right now. Okay, so yeah, a communicating healing, and either bringing in more routines and into our daily life that will be more balanced and level-headed like Saturn likes, but still with some measure of easy go, easy flow. I'd recommend going and watching the Venus retrograde video I've got up as well, because this will tie in with that, because in the middle of Venus retrograde is Mercury retrograde, and I talk about both of them together in that video. I've just named it Venus because, well, she's going to be retrograde longer than Mercury, but yeah. So I think that's about it with the full moon eclipse on the 14th. If I didn't say that, well, you can see it's the 14th of March. It's going to be happening. Is there anything else? Have I missed anything else? Probably. This is a trine from Mars to, looks like Saturn and maybe the Sun as well. So there's that, again, communicating, taking the initiative to communicate, even though it's squaring Chiron, because it's not easy to heal Chiron wounds anyway, but taking that challenge and taking the initiative, because we've got the trine going with the Sun and Saturn anyway. So it's sort of giving us that opportunity to take that up and work with that to get better routines, perhaps, or pull back on some routines that might have been a bit harsh or overbearing in some way, might have been difficult. Or if we've been too easygoing and letting things go and not getting things done, then bringing in routines to bring that balance back into equilibrium, if that makes sense, in our lives. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next one 2 weeks after this, which is the new moon eclipse. Okay, now this is particularly a lot easier in general as eclipses go, because it's like the new moon bringing in the new in a really big way, because that's the thing with the eclipses. They're a lot more powerful energy than a regular moon phase. And again, there's the 3 months of either side, of the event. They've got the event and the pre-shadow and the post-shadow. The post-shadow is different in that that's when, after the pre-shadow and the actual phase, it's the same as retrogrades. Got the pre-shadow, then the phase, then the post-shadow. With the pre-shadow and the phase, that's when we gather the information and maybe make some changes and that sort of thing. I didn't really say that before with the full moon, but it's the same sort of thing. Make those changes if you feel inclined to make some sort of change, or end something, or let go of something, or end a dynamic, or stop something, or start something, so that it's changing something in a good way. Do all that during either the pre-shadow or the actual phase itself. Once the post phase comes in, that's kind of about, if you haven't made any decisions or changes or anything like that, try to hold off from that with that phase, unless you absolutely have to, because it's more generally about, okay, what has come up that we haven't really done anything about? How is that sort of, what's come to light from that? What have we learned from that? Is there anything we need to look into more about that? Get a bit of research done while we're in the post-shadow phase. And once that phase finishes, then we can make any adjustments and changes after that as well. But that actual post-shadow phase is sort of like taking stock of what's happened or what changes have come to pass, Like I said, with that full moon eclipse energy that hit me late February, that was in the pre-shadow. So now I've gathered information. I've already gathered information now before the post-shadow to know what sort of things I need to do, what sort of things I don't need to do, what sort of things I need to keep away from, what sort of things I need to move towards, that sort of thing. And so while it's in this phase, we can make those moves, we can make those changes if that's what we're inclined to do, if we choose to do that. But once the post-shadow phase comes, we've sort of got to sit with the information and take stock of what has happened, what's come to pass, how it's changed things, what sort of things can we expect looking forward, what might be some ideas, sort of gathering ideas from the information that came up, if that makes sense. And then once the post-shadow phase passes, and then we can, if we haven't made any changes, then that, after the post-shadow phase, we might want to do that, or we might not. It's dependent on if the situation is sorted or not. So I guess that's something I wanted to reiterate for the full moon eclipse, because especially the changes in that sense, because like I said, the full moon eclipse is the one with the harsh energies. Yeah, so, but now we have the new moon eclipse here in tropical. They're saying it's in Aries. Over here, it's in Pisces. Again, we've got the True Sidereal with these actual constellation sizes. So it's actually Pisces. Yeah, so I might redo that because it's a bit, I was sort of a bit, let me go there we go. This one's kind of a bit sucky as well. I'm not good at drawing. I'm just gonna, we can't all be good at everything. And I'm certainly not good at everything. So anyway, it's just sort of making a joke there. So now again, the same thing, tropical, topocentric true sidereal. And now we've got the new moon eclipse, and like it's like relief kind of thing. Now, as you can see, there's not so many red lines. In fact, there's only one red line, and it's actually lighter than what it was 2 weeks before, what it will be 2 weeks before once this comes to pass, like when the 29th of March. And this is Mars, again, squaring Chiron, so he's still doing that. But it's sort of, the intensity has lessened a bit. So there's still the idea that we can take the initiative, because he's still right at nearing the tail end of Gemini. He's on 23 Gemini. So there's still communication, an opening for communication to take that challenge to do some healing. Now, this is the new moon eclipse, so there's a lot of new energies coming in. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of sextiles, trines, so this is you know, for me, this is giving me really good energy here. We've got a bunch of trines coming from Neptune and Venus, yes, Saturn as well, all trining Mars. So it's taking the initiative. Now these, because they don't always fit in the whole thing, but as you can see with the H thing, they're all Pisces energies. So we've got a whole bunch of Pisces energies working with Mars in a good way. The only red line, one red line, and again, it doesn't matter the system, they'll still have the same aspects. One red line happening, and as I said, if you rewind this, you'll see that it was a darker red line before because it had more strength in the full moon eclipse than it does with the new moon one. But there's still that challenge that we can take up to communicate getting some healing done again. So we've got sextiles again to Pluto. We've got a couple of them. Oh, it's hard to see. I think we've got Pluto to, that might be Neptune and Venus, because look, they're again only two degrees, or 1 degree apart, like 9, 10. So yeah, it's bringing in the new, and Mercury's retrograde now. At this, by the time this comes along, Mercury and Venus are both retrograde. But again, it's bringing in the new in a big way, with all the Pisces energies. So it's really Pisces, Pisces, Pisces all the way, pretty much. Pluto is in Capricorn, but again, there's not that seriousness, even though Saturn's in Pisces. I think that that's sort of kind of telling as well, with the idea of maybe having the wisdom to how am I going to put it? To take it easy on ourselves and those we care about. Now Venus does cover relationships and, you know, values, what we value, self-worth. Again, here's the opening for Chiron healing, you know, taking the initiative, communicating that. And then we've got the communication planet in retrograde. So we're looking at, because again, I don't want to go into it too much because I've already done the Venus slash Mercury video. So I'm talking in that I talk about how we could work with the retrograde energies. So it's not about, how do I put it? It's not about screeching to a halt and everything stopping. The planets go retrograde to bring things to our attention that we need to you know, work on, perhaps, to give us a better quality of life. That's the whole point of it. And the same with the eclipses. Like I said, with me, there was something that, even though you know, I say it myself that, you know, especially with the full moon eclipses, that we have to be aware and be in the driver's seat. Sometimes we just sort of, for whatever reason, we're just getting too busy or whatever, or other things are taking our attention, and we just put off things, and then bam, we get hit with an eclipse, like I did at the end of last month, or near the end of last month. But yeah, so it's about, if we're, because again, I say it in the readings when I use the cards, that with the full moon eclipse specifically, that we have to be brutally honest with ourselves and what's going on in our own lives, you know. And if there's any work anything that we need to look into, we have to literally be brutally honest with ourselves, or the eclipse will be brutally honest with us. That's just the way it goes. And if the eclipse was brutally honest with me, although I might sound like I'm laughing, I'm really, you know, it has been a tough ride for me lately. So yeah. But this is the new moon eclipse. So if we've been already looking at the work, doing the work and being, because sometimes being honest with ourselves isn't that easy. Sometimes we just don't want to deal with certain things if they seem a bit difficult, or like with me, I was letting other things take my attention. And so things were getting put off that needed work, where my attentions were going in other directions. And then, the eclipse came along and went, oh, you haven't done the work, bam, and so I was like, oh yeah, I haven't done the work. Oh no. Um, so yeah, so sort of dragged through um my own personal hell, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, it can be that way. It can be really, really painful sometimes, um, depending on what's going on at the time or what you've been avoiding, because that's the thing as well. That's what the full moon eclipse will be looking at. What are you avoiding? What are you not doing? What are you letting continue that is toxic, unhealthy, holding you back, whatever? What are you clinging your nails and teeth into that you need to let go of, that sort of thing. If you're still doing it and not, if you're refusing to do the work, it's going to be done for you, and very unceremoniously, usually. And that's what happened with me. So again, even though I say these things, I'm not immune to getting hit by the eclipses myself. I have my tower moments as well. Maybe I'll talk about it down the track, but I'm not in a place that I want to just yet. I don't feel comfortable with it just yet. It's still very raw at the moment. So even though I might be sort of laughing it off, it's not funny. I'm not finding it funny. But I'm seeing the necessity, the necessity of what happened, or why it had to happen that way, because I was getting sidetracked and letting things that weren't as important take up my time, and then bam, it happened, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't get a chance to do that work because I wasn't giving myself the chance to. So it wasn't that. I don't know how to. I don't know if I'm going in circles, if I'm making any sense, but wasn't giving myself the chance to, if that makes sense. The chance was there, I didn't take it, and so then the full moon eclipse took it instead. So yeah, so like I said, it's still pretty raw for me. So I'm not really wanting to talk about me too much, but I think I've done a bit of that in this video anyway. But yeah, so we're talking about the good side of Pisces at this point. Like I said, there's still the opening for healing. It's not as intense, if I want to put it that way, but it's still a challenge that we can take up if we choose to. But like I said, look at all these sextiles and trines. It's so much easier energy. There's only literally that one red line. So this could be spirituality, art, bringing in the new, making changes in a good way, because like I said, things that can happen during the pre-shadow, which, well, by the time I'm uploading this, will still be in the pre-shadow, or the actual phase of it as well, along with the energies, the retrograde energies of Venus and Mercury to help us along as well, communicating what is important to us, which is going to have strong Pisces themes of like things like spirituality, art, beauty, poetry, all sorts of artistic endeavors like that. Going with the flow, being easygoing, being peaceful, bringing more peace into things. Because with the harshness of the 2 weeks ago, the full moon eclipse, and especially its pre-shadow, the full moon eclipse pre-shadow obviously was happening 2 weeks prior to the pre-shadow of the new moon eclipse, if that makes sense, even though they've got a 3-month window on either side, at least. But yeah, so there's sort of using that time to think about what sort of Piscean themes can we bring in here. And again, this is the new moon, so it's bringing in the good. So it's not unlike the full moon eclipse, even though it wasn't in Pisces, it still has a lot of Pisces energies because there was the opposition, not just the fact that the full moon was an opposition to the sun, the moon opposing the sun, but the other oppositions that I mentioned before earlier in this video. So there's still a lot of Pisces energies coming through. But yeah, now we're looking at bringing in the new. This could be love. This could be all forms of love. It could be romantic. It could be familial, friendships, all relationships is Venus, and also our relationship to money. But I'm not at this point getting a whole bunch of financial stuff because we've got, well, I guess Uranus is in the early degrees of Taurus, and Uranus is sextiling Mars, and also a couple of planets over here. So there could be a little bit to do, for some, to do with, some sort of change with money and finances, and what we value, our items, maybe our home, if it falls in your fourth house at all, or something like that even. But Jupiter's not really aspecting anything at this point, but Uranus is, so there might be an opening. Well, there is. The sextiles are opportunities to take advantage of, breaking the mold, breaking the chain, so to speak, maybe, or making a splash, making a difference, changing things up. Because it's a sextile, it's not something that's going to be harsh and, sudden. And even though Uranus can be sudden change and all that sort of thing, and big changes and all that. I think with the sextiles, it's more easygoing energies. There's so much easygoing energies here happening. So I think that all up, no matter what signs we are, most of us are going to have, I perceive anyway, that most of us are going to have an easygoing time with this new moon eclipse in Pisces, notwithstanding any energies still lingering from the full moon eclipse 2 weeks ago, because remember, it's still got its energies of the 3 months. But by this time, technically, the full moon eclipse will be in its post-shadow phase, if that makes sense. It'll be in its 3 months after the event, because this is 2 weeks after the full moon eclipse. It's a new moon eclipse here. So we're looking at still working with the new moon energies and bringing in the new. So is there some artistic thing, artistic endeavor, or some sort of spiritual thing that we want to pursue? Maybe there's something we want to study. It could be things like esoteric, like it could be mediumship, psychic ability. It could be, I was going to say Reiki or Reiki. I don't know how to say it because I don't know how to do it either, but I don't mind receiving it. But yeah, so it could be something like that, but I'm not really getting Virgo unless it's hitting your 6th house. But it's more of a health thing, I would say, with Reiki. That's another thing. Maybe that was something with the full moon eclipse that you can look into. I'm zooming back and forward for some reason. So yeah, if you've come this far in the video, then you'll sort of go back with, you'll get what I mean with the full moon eclipse, that it may, maybe it might bring up an idea to bring in Reiki to to that situation in some way, to help things out. But yeah, so this is more about opening up, like you've got your openings and your opportunities with the sextiles and the easygoing aspects of the trines, which is really Mars is really having an easy time communicating Gemini with Venus and Neptune and Saturn. I think yeah, because Chiron's right in there. So I know the North Node, Chiron's over here. So North Node as well is getting a sextile, I can see as well. So there's just so many easy energies here. And the only, like I said, again, I keep going on about it because this is quite, to me, unusual that there's only this light square aspect hitting this new moon eclipse event here. So this is, even with the retrogrades and the eclipse and the post phase of the full moon eclipse, I still think there's going to be a lot of easygoing energies. And so it's really, in a sense, I want to say it's kind of like a portal to bring in or open ourselves up to the new with Pisces themes. Like I said, with if we're wanting to study something, maybe we're wanting to study tarot. Uh, is that more Scorpio occult? But it's still spiritual stuff. So maybe it's something like that. Or, spiritual gifts that we might have and sort of, starting a course or something, learning more about it, learning astrology, anything to do with spirituality. It could be religion, although that's more a Sag thing, organized religion, belief systems. But it could be as well. It's sort of like spirituality. They kind of go hand in hand in a sense, both of them touch on similar things in that sense. So it could be something like that. But it's not really so much of belief systems in a way that's, anything to be concerned about. This is just really easy energy. I'm just getting really easygoing energy, which is just a lovely feeling. So I think for most of us, especially with the days surrounding this, which will be more potent, I think that we're going to have that easygoing, gentle vibe going on with the Piscean energies. Art, opening up to art, looking into art classes, dance classes. That's still art. And Saturn is there, but I think it's more the wisdom of allowing ourselves to relate to these sort of ideas and bringing that into our lives, opening our lives up a bit more with a bit more Piscean energies or themes, as it were, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm making sense. I don't really know. I'm just sort of, I don't go by a script here. So I did actually with the Venus retrograde because there was a fair bit of information I wanted to cover at the time. So with the Venus retrograde video that also covers Mercury, because Mercury happens smack in between Venus retrograde, I did go by. I hadn't had stuff written, but here I'm just zooming around back forward. So I really hope something makes sense here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when this rocks up because, well, we're feeling the energies right now anyway. But for me at the moment, I'm still trying to recover from the full moon eclipse energies of how it hit me late February, which I'm going on and on about. I can't help it. It's still raw. I just, if you don't like it, just switch off, whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this Pisces new moon eclipse because it's gonna be very gentle, and I think it's going to be healing actually as well. And I think that's also why this is not as intense in that the challenge itself isn't intense, if that makes sense. But I think by default it might be healing because we're bringing in these Pisces themes and having that gentle, easygoing energy surrounding the days prior to, like three days prior and 3 days after, will be the intensity of the energies. But like I said, there is still, you will still have the energies coming through 3 months, up to at least 3 months before and after anyway. But the energies are potent at least for 3 days. They're extremely potent on the window of either side of the actual event itself. They're very potent. So it's sort of like the energies build up, like the pre-shadow, it builds up and then it gets stronger as it gets closer. And then the same thing, it's sort of the strength of it with the event. And then for a few days, it's still that high strength, and then it tapers off and off and off for at least 3 months. And then, after that, it's sort of peters out or whatever, if you want to say that, it sort of dwindles from there on. It's not as potent. And that's why late February, because it was so close, I got hit. But I've been hit before, further out than that with an eclipse before as well. It just, I guess it depends. Well, it does depend on not just the energies that are happening at the time, but how it's hitting your own chart at the time as well. So it's really good to take a look at, both systems. How's it hitting this chart? How's it hitting this chart? And sort of take a look at what were the themes, what was the energy, what sort of situations came up, and what really could the theme be covering. Aries themes of war and aggression and fighting and being, taking the lead. That's more Leo, but sort of me first sort of thing, which is all Aries. Or is it easygoing, easy flowing, and you're looking into more art, beauty, spirituality? Is that really more what's come up for you? And again, it may also depend on your rising sign as well, as to what house it's covering too, because your rising sign, if you're Pisces rising, well, the first house is the Aries house. Pisces rising, Aries would be second house. But yeah, it's sort of like, look at the themes of what sort of things have actually been happening. Has there been arguments? Has there been aggression? Has there been me first sort of attitude? Is that the themes that are coming through first and foremost? Is there things just pushing, is there that energy of this forcefulness and pushing things forward, regardless kind of thing? Because that's the sort of stuff you'd get with Aries. And I mean, you can put those energies into the good side of it, taking the initiative, striving forward sort of thing, because it's new moon eclipse, so it's not full moon eclipse. But again, is it those energies that are the main things, or is it these energies that are the main things? And that's why I follow this topocentric system, True Sidereal, because it is actually where they're placed according to the actual size of each constellation. So yeah, so that's why I've talked about the Pisces themes rather than the Aries themes. But yeah, so it's a matter of taking notice to see what actually happened within your situation and how it really came about, because there's no aggression with Pisces. If in fact the only thing that would be negative would be being hoodwinked and that sort of thing. But this again is not the full moon eclipse, because it was in Virgo 2 weeks before this, or it will be because it's not yet, hasn't, as I'm recording, the full moon eclipse has not yet actually happened. We're in the pre-shadow of it. Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of it's our opportunity to communicate what we love in a Piscean way, a peaceful Piscean way, you know, and be somewhat methodical, balanced, wise with the Saturn in Pisces. But again, because it's not the full moon one, it's going to be, you know, working in our favor. It's not going to be intense and heavy. That's technically the only one that's slightly intense, and it's not really, because it's a lot lighter than 2 weeks before. I'm going on over and over the same thing, I think. I feel like I'm doing that anyway, but I'm just trying to hopefully explain it in a way that's easy to understand. But yeah, so yeah, we can have an opening to purge as well, purge certain things, but it's not going to be painful because it's new moon eclipse and there's a lot of easy energies going on, even with the retrogrades, taking another look at things. You know, that's what the retrogrades are about, so that we can have a better quality of life. If we're doing that, then the eclipse energies are going to be happy with us because we're doing the work anyway. And as with new moon eclipse, it's not so much about doing the work and so that we don't have things ripped away from it. That's the full moon eclipse, but this one's, you know, the opening and chance to bring in something new in a really big way. You know, there might be some form of, there might be a piece of art that we want to bring in to our life in some way, or we may want to become an artist in some way, whether that's music, whether that's painting, drawing, acting, dancing, whatever, you know, all forms like that. And there's that opening for healing. But it's not that we're having to do the hard work with this phase, because the 2 weeks before was the hard work, if we've done it, you know, or if we needed to. Like I said earlier, you know, not everyone's needing to, but you know, if you feel that there is something that's sort of, you know, if you've sort of thought, oh, that resonates, then, you know, look into it, because doing the work now is better than, you know, letting the eclipse take over for you, like it did with me again. It's very unpleasant with the full moon eclipse. If we haven't done the work. But again, like I said earlier, not everyone has to, because it depends on what's going on in your own personal life. But these are the energies we can work with. And I'm just really looking forward to this particular new moon eclipse at the end of the month, literally end of the month, pretty much. Yeah, I really am, because I think I need some relief after what happened with me. But yeah, so what else can I speak about? Because there's just a lot of easygoing energies. So, you know, if there is anything to purge, it's going to be an easy job of it. You know, it's going to be easy for once to do that. It's an opportunity rather than a chore, because there's only that one red line, one hard aspect. Is there anything else you want us to? Yeah, I spoke about that. I think I've covered everything. And again, sextile Uranus to Mars. So Mars is really, for the most part, Mars is really supportive of everything, taking the initiative, you know, starting some new art project or writing or anything it could be. Whatever is important to you, what do you value, including yourself, those you love, anything. You know, bringing in the new of something, you know, bringing in some sort of artistic flair of some kind, whether it's your own or purchasing a piece of art or something like that. It's going to be different for everyone. It could just be making a change in a room or something, making it look a bit more pleasant or arty in some way, you know, in that sense. It doesn't have to be buying expensive art or anything like that. We're not all able to do that, you know. But there's just this easygoing energy with this particular phase, and I think it's going to really be a nice, peaceful time for the days surrounding it, and especially this particular day. Again, 29th of March is over here, so for some it might be 28th of March, like UK and US. And what was the other one? 14th, I think, over here. So for, again, UK and US, for instance, might be 13th with the full moon eclipse. But yeah, so with all the harshness that it seemed to have of the full moon eclipse, I think it's about time we had some peacefulness, you know, with this new moon eclipse. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, so I think I'm going over and over and over with the same things. I think I've sort of explained all I can. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. But yeah, it's just this is just going to be a really lovely energy for most of us, if not all of us, you know, and opportunities. So not anything that we're forced to have to do. You know, even this little challenge here isn't as potent as 2 weeks before. So again, I know I'm going now over and over and over like a broken record. Probably should have written stuff up so I wouldn't go over and over and over, but I didn't. So that's that. But yeah, so anyway, I wish you guys all the best of luck, and hopefully you guys aren't going to be hit with the full moon eclipse energies like I was. Hopefully, if you haven't done the work and you're picking up that there might be something to look into to, you know, avoid the full moon eclipse energies hitting you on the butt, then I wish you all the best of luck in doing that. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough on my feet to do it for myself, but you know, you live and you learn. But yeah, so I really hope I've been able to help you guys, whoever's watching, to get a bit more information this way. But again, I would recommend the Venus retrograde video that I did, which covered Mercury as well. It's a bit different to this one, but it's still showing the charts. But yeah, so it sort of ties in because it's all happening around the same time. So really, and for me, as much information as I can get is the best way I can get through this energy, even though I've already been here with the full moon eclipse. But yeah, you know, taking stock of it, having another look at what I posted myself, you know, and going, oh yeah, and looking into it too, again, so that I can sort of get through what has already happened for me. But yeah, I'm just sort of trying to explain these things, hopefully to give you a bit of an idea of how you can work with it yourself, you know, all these energies. But yeah, I would recommend taking a look at the Venus retrograde video. Again, Venus, and I don't think, I don't know if I put Mercury in the actual title. I might have, but it's covering both. But yeah, it's well, I've got the notes actually, so I probably don't have to look into the video. I can just read the notes from that one, because I did write notes, thankfully, with that one, but I just didn't with this. But yeah, so I wish you guys all the best of luck, and hopefully you guys haven't been hit and won't be hit with the full moon eclipse, and you guys will be able to have the chance to do any work if you perceive that there's something that needs to be worked on, and get that done so that you can be open to these really amazing energies of this coming new moon eclipse, because I perceive that this is quite rare to have aspects this way, you know, all blue and only one little, you know, usually there's a lot more harder aspects than just the one and only one. So yeah, this is really lovely. I think this is a really good, this is going to be a really good energy, really good vibes. Really, it should be a really peaceful day at least. to experience a confirmation, but yeah, so again, it may still also be the experience of 3 days prior and 3 days after as well, before it moves into the post shadow phase of the up to 3, or at least 3 months. It can be over 3 months, but yeah, at least up to 3 months. But yeah, so it's just nice to end on this sort of energy, I think, because to me, this is, again, like I just said, I keep saying the same thing over and I think I'd better head off now. But yeah, so it's really lovely to see that there's all these easier aspects happening, and just the tiny one that's not that strong and not that potent, but it's all giving us opportunity for peacefulness and bringing in Piscean themes in our lives in whatever way that is for us. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there and wish you guys all the best of luck with it all. And yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, I wish you all the best of luck with working with these eclipse energies and the retrogrades, which again, I'll put the link to the retrograde video in the description box for those who want, want to, find it easier. But yeah, I would recommend watching that too, so you've just got plenty of information to work with, and it's an easier time to work with both the energies as well as the retrogrades, the eclipses and the retrogrades all together. So all the best of luck, and yeah, until next time, bye for now.